She laughed when the phone lit up at 1:12 a.m., the room washed in that cold blue that never feels like home. She laughed like it was nothing, like late-night text bubbles were a passing ghost with no name, no hands, no history. But the sound lodged somewhere under my ribs, warm and sharp, like a splinter you can't reach. We'd been drifting for months, small ways at first, cups left to dry but never put away. 2 plates at the table, no conversation to join them. Her side of the couch like a coastline I couldn't cross. Her name is Myra, mine is Arjun. We live on the 8th floor of a building that hums at night, rain tapping the windows like a patient knuckle. Out there, the city is always awake, scooters coughing, dogs arguing, a distant train like a long inhale. In here, our apartment has learned to be quiet so it doesn't scare us away. She laughed again, softer, and rolled onto her side, the screen tilted against the pillow. "Work," she said, voice muffled by the blanket she pulled to her chin. Then she turned, eyes closing, as if sleep were a door she could shut and lock. Sleep didn't come for me, it never really does anymore. I counted every amber blink from the router, each a metronome marking time we weren't spending together. In the morning, there would be coffee and half phrases. In the evening, leftovers and the news we pretend not to watch. I used to believe love was a house. You build it, you live in it, and if you keep the gutters clear, it holds. But love is a climate, not a room. It shifts, it storms, it breaks into sunlight where you least expect it. And some seasons you can't grow anything at all. The next night, another message, then another. Her brightness dimmed to something secret, a light cupped in both hands. "Really?" I asked, sitting at the edge of the bed, watching her reflection in the window. "Work." She didn't look up. "Campaign launch," she said. "Clients don't sleep." A pause, then a smile she didn't know I could see. The third night it rained like regret, the kind that clings to the railings and the laundry you forgot to bring in. I made pasta and left it covered on the stove. She came home late, hair damp, eyes brighter than they should be for someone who had only worked. "Eat," I said. "I'm not hungry," she said, reaching for her phone like it was the key to a room I couldn't enter. The fourth night, the text sound was different, sharper, brief. She laughed again, short, guilty, unshared. "What's funny?" I asked. "Nothing," she said, and then, hating herself for the word, just nothing. I wanted to be patient. You don't build trust by rattling doors, but distance is a language too, and hers was fluent. I found out by accident. She left her phone on the bathroom counter when the shower steamed everything into blur. A message preview, half a sentence, a name I didn't recognize. Last night was. The screen dimmed, my heartbeat filled the mirror. I didn't unlock it. Didn't need to, knowing doesn't always live behind passwords. Sometimes it's in the way steam curls, the way water pounds harder than necessary, the way silence avoids you like an alley you shouldn't walk. Dinner that night was theatrical in its normalcy. I asked about a client. She told me about a timeline. Our forks clinked like two people pretending they weren't sitting in a room that had already fallen. "Do you love me?" I asked finally. She blinked. "Don't do that." "Do you?" Her throat moved, the rain thickened outside. "It's not that simple." That's when something in me collapsed quietly. No shouting, no broken plates. Just a chair pushed back with more care than necessary, a napkin placed flat beside a plate that no longer needed me. I stood, walked to the window, and watched a streetlight tremble in the water. Behind me, her phone buzzed. She laughed once automatically, as if to prove that whatever this was could still be lightly worn. Then she stopped, as if she heard her own echo. I turned just enough to see her face tilt away from mine, her thumb hovering over a name I still didn't know. "Who is he?" I asked, voice small and careful, like setting a glass on a table you already cracked. She closed her eyes. The shower from earlier had finally cooled the mirror. In it, our apartment looked like a staged set. 2 chairs, 2 cups, 1 door. "I don't," she started, and the words tangled. The rain stilled for a breath, and in that thin hush between drops, something ended without ceremony. She lowered the phone. I lowered my eyes. "His name is Neil," she said. Outside, a car cut its headlights, leaving us to our shadows. And even then she laughed, soft, bitter, like a habit she hadn't learned to break. The pasta had gone cold, so had we. I didn't ask for details. Instead, I reached for the switch and dimmed the lights until our apartment was just a dark room with 2 people in it. "Okay," I said. The word sat between us, a small stone in a deep lake. She looked at me finally, and for a flicker I saw fear. "Okay," she echoed, as if returning an object she hadn't meant to take. We didn't sleep. We lay in parallel lines, inches apart, and every breath she took rearranged the furniture inside me. At 3:09 a.m. her phone lit again. She didn't laugh this time, she only watched the light fade. In the quiet that followed, I could hear the faintest sound, drops gathering on the balcony railing, heavy, undecided, about to fall. I waited for one to let go. It didn't. And neither did I at dawn. She reached for my hand in the half-light, fingers hovering just above my skin, and then the phone buzzed again. Morning came, the color of old photographs, muted gold, as if it didn't want to wake us too quickly. I made coffee because that is what love becomes when it's tired, rituals performed with gentle precision. Myra sat at the table, elbows on the wood, hair tied high like she was bracing. We didn't touch the cups, we just watched the steam go thin. I didn't plan it, she said. People always say that, as if betrayal needs a blueprint. I was lonely, she added, and the word scratched at the walls. I was right here, I said. I know, she said, and that was worse than if she hadn't. There are traces of an affair that outlast the affair, a receipt crumpled in the wrong bin. A joke told without context, a smile practiced elsewhere and brought home by accident. I began to see them everywhere. Neil was an art director at the agency. He wore linen shirts, apparently. He texted late because ideas arrive like stray cats and you don't want to scare them. Myra told me this as if the metaphor softened the fact. Is it over? I asked. She listened to the traffic hum, to the buzz of a neighbor's blender, to anything but me. I don't know, she said. The night stretched, elastic and unforgiving. I lay awake while the city cooled around us, while rain came and went, while the smell of coffee from the morning still clung to the curtains. I scrolled through photos of us, beaches, birthdays, the plant we forgot to water and then pretended we had meant to let die. I didn't tell my friends. Grief shrinks your world to exactly the size of your apartment. The kettle, the chair, the folded sweatshirt on the armrest, each item a witness that refuses to take the stand. On a Tuesday, I found one of his business cards in her tote, stuck to a receipt from a cafe we'd never visited together. I placed it on the counter, ink side down, like covering a wound. That evening she saw it, and something in her face tightened, not with anger but with recognition, like a song lyric you didn't realize you knew by heart. We can try counseling, I said, voice steady, as if reading an instruction manual for fixing a ship already under the water. She nodded. Okay. People say okay when they mean maybe. The counselor's office smelled like eucalyptus and second chances. We sat on opposite ends of a couch designed to make ruins feel curated. She spoke first. I don't know when I stopped being here. I stared at my hands. Was there anything you needed that you didn't ask for? The counselor asked. Myra looked at me then, eyes glassy with an honesty that scared both of us. Yes, she said, and I'm still not sure I can ask now. We left with homework. Transparency, no phones after 10, walked together every evening. On the first walk, the sky was a clean blue plate. On the second, a burnished gray, edges of rain stalking the horizon. On the third, she forgot we were supposed to go. In the kitchen, she cried for the first time, not heaving sobs, just a quiet leak that surprised her. I don't want to be this person, she said. You aren't, I offered, a kindness I didn't believe. She pressed her palms to her eyes. Maybe I am. I met Neil once accidentally in the building lobby. He was taller than I expected, with the kind of careful smile men wear when they've learned to be liked. Myra's husband, he said, sticking out a hand like we were going to build a bridge right there on the doormat. Arjun, I said. The elevator arrived. We stood shoulder to shoulder, both of us watching the numbers climb, like hoping they'd carry us somewhere less humiliating. He spoke first. I'm sorry. It wasn't the word, it was the softness, like setting down a fragile object he didn't own. I swallowed, tasted metal. Are you? He didn't answer. The elevator dinged, doors opening on a corridor that felt too bright. That night, Myra didn't laugh at any messages. She put her phone face down and held her mug with both hands like it might steady her. I saw him, I said. She nodded once, guilty and grateful all at once. I don't know how to undo this, she whispered. Maybe you don't, I said. Maybe you just decide what you do next. What I did next was small. I started sleeping in the guest room. I folded the blankets like evidence. I left her side of the bed as it was, warm, unmade, a reminder that comfort and truth rarely share a pillow. The days formed a new rhythm. Wake, coffee, work, long shower that sounded like rain, the smell of dinner I ate alone. I answered fewer calls. I learned the exact time the sunlight moved across the living room floor, touching the empty chair before leaving it behind. Oddly, resilience doesn't feel like strength when it arrives. It feels like not drowning in a pool you didn't realize you were in. On a Friday, I deleted old voice notes where she laughed in the car, where the city rushed past and our younger selves thought it was all beginning. I kept one, a clip of her reading a recipe out loud, mispronouncing oregano, both of us cackling until we forgot the oven. The turning point wasn't loud. I woke early, before the traffic warmed up, and stepped onto the balcony. The air smelled like wet plants and something clean. In the building across, someone watered a line of basil and mint, the drops falling like a gentle drumline. I realized I hadn't checked her phone in weeks, hadn't wanted to. There's a freedom in admitting you can survive without a certain kind of answer. I texted her, "Let's talk tonight." She replied, "Okay." That evening she came home early, eyes rimmed red, shoulders squared. I ended it, she said, voice paper thin. With Neil, she meant, she didn't add, "I don't know if that brings me back to you." She placed her phone between us like a surrendered weapon, and then it buzzed, one last time, with a name neither of us expected. The name on the screen was her mother's, a merciful interruption that felt like fate protecting us from a sentence we weren't ready to finish. She silenced it, palms trembling. "I ended it," she repeated, as if the words needed a second landing. I nodded, not trusting the shape my mouth might make if it tried to be brave. She took a breath. "I didn't choose him because he was better. I chose him because I thought he was elsewhere." "Elsewhere? Not here," she said. "Not where my disappointments live. A place where I could be the version of me I remember." "I remember you," I said. She gave a small, ruined smile. "Do you?" I looked around at the dent in the sofa cushion where she curled up with books, at the chipped mug she refused to throw away, at the plant we murdered together. "Yes," I said, "and I remember me with you." We didn't rush to touch. We learned new caution, honest hands. In the days after, she moved gently through the apartment, as if the floor were a story that might break if stepped on too hard. She cooked once dal on low heat, the kitchen smelling like something that healed slowly. "What do you want from me?" she asked one evening, voice quiet, almost reverent. "The truth," I said, "and time." She nodded. "I can give you both." And then an afterthought that wasn't small: "If you can give me patience." We set rules: no late-night messages, no secret smiles. "Tell me when you miss me, even if I'm standing right there. Tell me when you don't." The first time she reached for me, it was raining. We stood by the window, the city's lights smeared into long, sorry streaks. She took my hand without looking, fingers finding the spaces like they remembered the map by heart. I let her. Neither of us pretended that holding is the same as mending. We talked about Neil like removing a splinter slowly with clean instruments. "Did you love him?" I asked. She shook her head. "No." "Did he love you?" Her eyes flicked to the floor. "Maybe the idea of me." Guilt lived in the apartment like a third tenant. It washed the dishes with me. It stood behind her as she folded laundry. It sat on the edge of the guest bed while I pretended to sleep. One night I moved back to our room, not because everything was fixed, but because grief had run out of new ways to perform itself. We lay there, the fan turning, our breaths learning to share space again. "Do you hate me?" she asked into the dark. "No," I said. "I hate what happened." A pause, "and I hate that I wasn't what you reached for when you felt empty." She flinched at that, a physical truth. Her return wasn't dramatic, it was practical. She stopped sitting with her back to me. She laughed once at a comedy clip, then covered her mouth like the sound might trigger a trap. "Don't hide it," I said. She nodded, eyes wet. "I don't trust my laughter anymore." We visited the counselor again. "Repair requires both truth and grief," she said. "We've done truth." "Have you grieved together?" We looked at each other like we'd missed a step on the stairs. That night we sat on the floor with the lights off and named things we had lost. Trust, ease, the version of that Sunday morning when we thought all mornings would feel like that. Myra cried into her hands. I didn't touch her. Not because I didn't want to, but because this was the part where love needed space to breathe without being told it was safe. When she finally looked up, there was something steadier in her eyes. "What if we don't make it?" she asked. "Then we don't," I said, surprising both of us, "and we still forgive ourselves." "Can you forgive me?" "I can learn to," I said, "if you forgive you." Her return came with small offerings. New pillows, because the old ones held bad dreams. A framed photo from a year we still loved each other easily. Tickets to a play where the actors said what we couldn't, and we applauded like we had found a language again. But there was also a quiet, stubborn question growing in me, watered by every soft morning, every careful night. It asked whether love can be rebuilt without rebuilding the people who carry it. I watched her sleep and felt the answer wait in the doorway. On a bright morning, she turned toward me, eyes clear, and said, "If staying means we keep grieving, maybe the kindest thing is to let each other go." Morning light has its own mercy. It slipped through the blinds and rested on our bare floor like a soft hand. We sat at the table, no coffee yet, just the quiet courage that shows up when you stop pretending. "Say it again," I whispered. "If staying means we keep grieving, maybe the kindest thing is to let each other go," she said, voice barely above the hum of the fridge. The words didn't shatter anything. They arranged the pieces into a shape that finally made sense. We didn't bargain, we didn't list all the ways we could try harder. We had tried, and the trying had become its own wound. Instead, we planned like people who still cared about the person in front of them. We divided the small things. She took the chipped mug. I kept the plant pot, empty now, soil gathered into a neat mound like a quiet grave. We chose a moving date that didn't land on any anniversary. When it rained that afternoon, neither of us pretended it meant anything. Rain is rain, but if it had a meaning, it was this: cleaning the air so we could breathe. We told our families in sentences that grew careful hands as they walked out of our mouths. Her mother cried, mine asked if there was someone else, as if that would make it easier to hate. There was, I said, but that's not the story anymore. The last night in the apartment, we didn't sleep in the same bed, not from anger, from respect. I lay on the guest bed and watched headlights slide across the ceiling, a slow parade of goodbyes. In the morning, I made coffee one last time, and the smell braided itself through every room. She stood by the balcony, holding the keys, sunlight warming the line of her jaw. I'm sorry, she said. The words had weight now, not to crush but to ground. I know, I said, I forgive you. I waited a breath for the echo. I forgive me, she said, and the room exhaled. We locked the door and didn't look back. The corridor smelled like paint and possibilities. In the lift, we stood side by side, not touching, both facing the same direction. When the doors opened, the morning sounded ordinary, vendors calling, a dog shaking off night, traffic readying its patience. Outside, the city looked exactly as it always had, only we were new. We walked to the curb together and then didn't, each of us turning toward a different address neither of us had used before. The light held us until it didn't. Weeks later, I wake before my alarm, the apartment quiet in a way that isn't empty anymore. I make 1 cup of coffee, I open the window and let the morning in. Across the lane, someone waters basil. It smells like the beginning of something that doesn't need a name yet. Sometimes I think of the night she laughed at the texts. How the sound felt like a foreign coin in a pocket I'd forgotten. I don't hate the memory. I place it on the shelf with the others, the plant pot, the photo frame, the chipped space in me that taught me how to be gentle with things that break. And when it rains, I let it, I don't make it confess. I watch the drops gather on the railing, heavy, undecided, about to fall. I wait, they let go. So do I. The kettle clicks off, the room warmed by thin sunlight, and for a long moment, nothing needs to be said at all. For a long moment, nothing needs to be said at all.